When returning home unannounced, a businessman finds his paraplegic son abandoned on the floor begging for help. What he discovers inside that mansion turns a luxurious home into a scene of horror and unleashes a truth no one was prepared to hear. If you like stories like this, watch until the end, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment telling us where you're listening from. The Emirates flight landed at JFK International Airport 2 hours early. Roderick Alastair adjusted his Swiss wristwatch as he hurried through the terminal, pulling his Italian leather suitcase. Business in Dubai had concluded more quickly than expected, and a part of him was glad to be able to return home sooner than planned. 3 weeks away from New York City felt like an eternity when you had a son waiting at home. His private driver was already waiting in the arrivals area, holding a discreet sign with his name. During the drive along the Belt Parkway, Roderick observed the urban landscape he knew so well. The skyscrapers of the financial district stood out against the grey afternoon sky of the city, and he felt that familiar sense of belonging that only his hometown could provide. "Mr. Alastair, Miss Hayes wasn't expecting you today, was she?" asked Wilson, the driver who had worked for the family for 5 years. "No, Wilson. I wanted to surprise them." "Gabriel must be eager to see me." Roderick smiled, thinking of his 9-year-old son. Despite the motor limitations that left him dependent on a wheelchair, Gabriel always showed contagious joy when his father returned from business trips. The mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, stood imposingly behind the electronic gates. The perfectly manicured gardens, cared for by specialized gardeners, created a scene of prosperity and harmony that Roderick had built over 15 years as the executive director of one of the country's largest construction companies. Every detail of that property reflected the professional success he had achieved. Upon entering the main door, Roderick found the silence in the house strange. Normally, this time of day was filled with the sounds of Gabriel's physical therapy, or the children's programs the boy watched in the living room. He placed his suitcases in the entrance hall and called out, "Valerie? Gabriel?" No answer echoed through the marble corridors. Roderick went upstairs towards the upper floor where the bedrooms were. Perhaps Gabriel was resting after therapy sessions. The boy followed a strict routine of exercises and medical care that Valerie managed with the efficiency of someone who had dedicated the last few years to this mission. Gabriel's bedroom door was ajar. Roderick gently pushed it open, and what he saw made him stop instantly in the doorway. His son was on the floor near the bed, trying to drag himself towards the table where his water bottle usually sat. The boy was wearing only a faded t-shirt and a diaper that appeared not to have been changed for hours. "Gabriel!" Roderick rushed to his son, kneeling beside him. "My God, what happened?" The boy looked up and Roderick felt his heart race. Gabriel's lips were chapped, his sunken eyes indicated dehydration, and there was an expression of surprise mixed with relief on his small face. "Daddy?" His voice was hoarse, almost inaudible. "You're back?" Roderick picked up his son, feeling how much lighter the boy's body seemed than the last time. "Of course, I'm back, my love." "Why are you on the floor? Where is your wheelchair?" Gabriel pointed to the corner of the room where the wheelchair was disassembled, with loose wheels and the seat removed. "Mommy said I didn't need it today, that I had to learn to manage on my own." Anger began to rise in Roderick's chest, but he controlled himself not to scare his son. He carried Gabriel to the bathroom and began to clean him carefully, noticing reddish marks on his skin that suggested the boy had spent a long time in the same position. "How long have you been like this, Gabriel?" The boy lowered his eyes as if afraid to answer. "Since you traveled, Daddy, Mommy said I was being too demanding and needed to learn to be independent." Roderick felt a mixture of rage and guilt growing within him. How had he not noticed that something was wrong? Video calls always showed Gabriel seemingly well, sitting in his chair, with Valerie by his side demonstrating affection and attention. After bathing his son and dressing him in clean clothes, Roderick took him to the kitchen. Gabriel drank water as if he hadn't done so in days, and when Roderick offered food, the boy devoured a slice of bread as if it were his first meal in a long time. "Gabriel, tell me what else happened while I was away." The boy hesitated, looking nervously at the stairs, as if fearing someone might be listening. Mommy got very angry when I asked to go to the doctor. She said I was faking pain for attention, and she took the phone out of my room. Roderick remembered the special phone he had installed in Gabriel's room for emergencies. It was an adapted device that the boy could easily use, even with his motor limitations. Why did she take the phone? Because I called Dr. Helen asking when my next appointment would be. Mommy got very angry and said I couldn't talk to anyone without her permission. Dr. Helen Carter was the physical therapist who had been with Gabriel for 3 years. A dedicated professional who had almost become part of the family. Roderick took out his cell phone and dialed the clinic's number. Dr. Alistair. What a surprise. I thought you were still traveling, Helen said when she answered. Helen, I need to know about Gabriel's sessions. How has he been doing in recent weeks? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Mr. Alistair, the sessions were cancelled a month ago. Ms. Hayes said you were changing physical therapists and would get in touch when you decided. Roderick felt the ground collapse beneath his feet. Cancelled? Valerie never told me that. I found it strange because Gabriel was progressing very well. I tried calling a few times to confirm, but Ms. Hayes said everything was under control and that she no longer needed my services. After hanging up, Roderick looked at Gabriel, who was timidly playing with a piece of bread. The boy avoided his father's gaze, as if afraid of saying something wrong. Gabriel, can you tell me everything that happened? I promise I won't be angry with you. Mommy said you weren't coming back, Gabriel whispered. That you were tired of taking care of me, and that I had to stop being a burden on the family. His son's words hit Roderick like a punch to the stomach. He knelt in front of the chair where he had seated Gabriel and held the boy's small hands. Gabriel, look at me. I will always come back for you. Always. You are not a burden to anyone. You are the most important thing in my life. The boy's eyes filled with tears. But Mommy said, Mommy was wrong. Very wrong. Roderick hugged his son, feeling the fragility of the small body against his chest. We're leaving here now. We're going to the hospital for some tests just to make sure everything is okay with you. The hospital? Gabriel was startled. Mommy said if I kept complaining, you would take me to a place where I would be away from home forever. Roderick closed his eyes, trying to control the emotion that threatened to explode. Gabriel, I'm taking you to the hospital because I love you and I want to make sure you're healthy. Then we'll go home, our home where you'll be safe. While packing a bag with Gabriel's things, Roderick tried to process everything he had discovered. How could Valerie, the woman he had been married to for 10 years, have done this to Gabriel? How had he himself not noticed the signs during video calls? The sound of a key in the lock made him stop. Valerie had arrived. Roderick, you're back already? Her voice echoed through the entrance hall, laden with surprise and something that sounded like nervousness. Roderick came down the stairs carrying Gabriel in his arms. Valerie stood in the hall, still wearing the elegant business suit she wore for her social engagements. She was impeccable as always, every hair in place, perfect makeup. Where were you? Roderick asked, trying to keep his voice controlled. I was at the salon, then I went to lunch with the club girls. Why didn't you tell me you were coming back today? Valerie approached, but stopped when she saw Gabriel in her husband's arms. Gabriel, what are you doing out of your room? He was on the floor, Valerie. On the floor, dehydrated, with his wheelchair disassembled. Roderick's voice came out harsher than he intended. Valerie blinked quickly, as if processing unexpected information. Oh, right. I was teaching him to be more independent. The new physical therapist suggested he spend some time without the chair to strengthen his muscles. What new physical therapist, Valerie? Helen told me you cancelled the sessions a month ago. The silence that followed was charged with tension. Valerie opened and closed her mouth a few times, as if searching for the right words. I can explain everything. Let's talk calmly, Roderick. Gabriel, go to your room. The adults need to talk. Gabriel is coming with me to the hospital, Roderick said firmly. He needs a medical evaluation. Hospital. Don't be dramatic, Roderick. He's fine. He was just doing an exercise. Roderick looked at the woman with whom he had built a family and felt as if he were seeing a stranger. The Valerie he knew would never allow Gabriel to be in a situation like that. We will talk, Valerie. But first, Gabriel needs medical attention. He headed for the door carrying his son. Wilson is still outside. We're going to Mount Sinai Hospital. Roderick, wait! Valerie followed him to the door. People will ask unnecessary questions. You know how difficult it is to deal with comments about Gabriel's condition. I was just trying to help him be stronger. Roderick stopped and turned to her. Gabriel's condition? He's our son, Valerie. not a condition. As he left the mansion, Roderick looked at Gabriel, who had fallen asleep in his arms during the argument. The boy seemed exhausted, as if he had finally found a safe place to rest. As Wilson drove towards the hospital, Roderick made a silent promise. He would discover the whole truth about what had happened to his son, and he would ensure that nothing like it ever happened again. Mount Sinai Hospital was busy that Friday afternoon. Roderick carried Gabriel through the corridors, following the nurse to the pediatric emergency room. The boy had woken up during the journey but remained quiet, clinging to his father's neck as if fearing to be separated from him again. "Dr. Henry Thompson will see you now," the nurse said, opening the door to a large, well-lit room. Dr. Thompson was a middle-aged man with graying hair and an experienced gaze that immediately fixed on Gabriel with professional attention. "Good afternoon, I'm Dr. Thompson, and you must be Gabriel." Gabriel nodded shyly, still reluctant to move away from his father. Roderick explained the situation he had found at home, omitting some of the more serious details so as not to scare his son. "Gabriel, can you tell me how you've been feeling in recent weeks?" Dr. Thompson asked in a gentle voice as he prepared his instruments for the examination. "I'm very thirsty, doctor, and sometimes it hurts here." Gabriel pointed to his back. "But Mommy said I was making it up." Dr. Thompson exchanged a meaningful look with Roderick. "We're going to run some tests to see how you're doing, Gabriel. Your dad will stay right here with you the whole time." During the physical evaluation, the doctor took notes on his clipboard. Roderick noticed the increasingly worried expression on the professional's face. When Dr. Thompson examined Gabriel's back and legs, Roderick saw something that made him gasp. Several small skin lesions, some already healed, others still reddish. "These are bed sores," Dr. Thompson explained in a low voice. "They happen when someone stays in the same position for too long without being moved adequately." "Doctor, is this serious?" Roderick asked, feeling a tightness in his chest. "We'll do some additional tests. I want to assess Gabriel's nutritional status and check for signs of muscle atrophy beyond what's expected for his condition." While awaiting the results of the blood tests and x-rays, Roderick called his personal lawyer, Dr. Robert Maxwell, who handled the construction company's affairs. But upon explaining the situation, Robert was honest. "Roderick, my specialty is corporate law. For a situation like this, you need someone specialized in family law and child protection. I know an excellent one, Ms. Felicity Stone. She's one of the best lawyers in the country in that area." 2 hours later, Dr. Thompson returned with a folder of test results and a grave expression. "Mr. Alistair, I need to speak with you privately." They went out into the corridor. Leaving Gabriel watching cartoons on the room's television, Dr. Thompson wasted no time beating around the bush. The tests show moderate malnutrition, significant dehydration, and signs of prolonged neglect. Gabriel has lost weight, has deficiencies in several important vitamins, and shows muscle atrophy beyond what's expected for his neurological condition. Roderick leaned against the wall, feeling his legs weaken. "What does this mean, doctor?" "It means Gabriel hasn't been receiving adequate care for weeks, possibly months. The bed sores indicate he was immobilized for prolonged periods. His nutritional status suggests inadequate or irregular feeding. But my wife always told me everything was fine." On video calls, Gabriel seemed well cared for. Dr. Thompson placed a hand on Roderick's shoulder. "Mr. Alistair, I need to ask some difficult questions. This is protocol in cases of suspected neglect. Gabriel needs to be hospitalized for a few days for rehydration and nutritional assessment, and I am legally obligated to report this case to Child Protective Services." Roderick's world collapsed at that moment. Child Protective Services meant that authorities considered Gabriel to have been a victim of abuse. It meant his family was shattered in a way he had never imagined possible. "I understand, doctor. Do whatever is necessary for Gabriel to get well." That same night, Roderick was sitting beside the hospital bed where Gabriel slept, connected to an IV for rehydration. His phone rang. "Mr. Alistair? This is Felicity Stone. Dr. Maxwell gave me your case and said it was urgent." The female voice sounded professional, but carried empathy. Roderick explained the entire situation to the lawyer, who asked several specific questions about Gabriel's routine, medical care, and Valerie's behavior. "Mr. Alistair, I need to be direct. Based on what you've told me, we have indications of severe neglect. I will guide you through the next steps, but first, I need you to understand that this battle can be long and painful. Miss Stone, I just want to protect my son, no matter what it takes. Very well. Tomorrow morning I will go to the hospital to speak with the doctor and with Gabriel if he feels comfortable. I will also need all of his medical documentation from the last few months. Do you have access to that? Roderick realized he didn't even know which doctors Gabriel had visited recently, which tests he had undergone, or even if he had undergone any. All this responsibility he had delegated to Valerie, completely trusting in her competence and dedication. I don't know. Valerie took care of all that. I understand. We'll find out together. I also recommend you hire a private investigator. We need to document everything that happened. The next morning, Ms. Felicity Stone arrived at the hospital at 8 o'clock sharp. She was a woman in her 40s, with brown hair pulled back in an elegant bun, wearing a dark suit that conveyed authority and professionalism. "Is Gabriel feeling better today?" she asked, approaching the bed where the boy was having breakfast. "A little bit," Gabriel replied shyly. "Are you a doctor too?" "No, I'm a lawyer. I'm here to help you and your dad." Felicity sat beside the bed. "Gabriel, do you feel comfortable talking to me about what your life has been like at home?" Gabriel looked at his father, who gave him an encouraging nod. "You can tell her, son. She's here to help us." During the conversation, Felicity carefully noted every detail Gabriel shared. The boy recounted days without physical therapy, forgotten meals, and times he asked for help and was ignored. "Gabriel, do you have any electronic devices of your own? A tablet, a cell phone?" "I had an old tablet that Daddy gave me, but Mommy hid it because she said I was using too much internet." Felicity and Roderick exchanged glances. "Where did she usually hide your things, Gabriel?" "In her bedroom closet. There's a drawer she always locks." After the conversation with Gabriel, Felicity was direct with Roderick. "We need to access that tablet. If Gabriel recorded anything or if there are messages, it could be crucial for the case. How are we going to get it? Valerie won't just hand it over. The investigator I'll recommend has experience in these cases. Charles Miller worked for the City Police Department for 20 years before opening his own agency. He knows how to proceed legally. Charles Miller was a robust man in his 50s, with a grey mustache and keen eyes that seemed to miss no detail. When they met at the hospital, he listened carefully to Roderick's entire account. "Mr. Alistair, I'll be frank, cases like this are more common than you imagine. Neglect by caregivers happens, unfortunately. But we will gather all the necessary evidence." "What do you need me to do?" Felicity replied. "First, we need to inspect the house, with a court order if necessary. We want to document the state of Gabriel's room, check the disassembled wheelchair, find that tablet." Charles added, "I will also investigate your wife's routine. I will talk to household staff, with the doctors who attended Gabriel, with people who may have observed something." "What about child protective services?" "I've already spoken with the responsible social worker," Felicity explained. "They will conduct their own assessment. But the fact that Gabriel is well cared for now, and that you took all immediate steps, counts heavily in your favor." During the 3 days Gabriel was hospitalized, Roderick did not leave the hospital. Valerie appeared only once, bringing some of the boy's clothes and maintaining a defensive posture throughout the visit. "Roderick, you're exaggerating. Gabriel has always been dramatic, you know that. One difficult day doesn't mean I don't take good care of him." "One difficult day, Valerie? He was dehydrated, malnourished, with bed sores on his body." "Bed sores happen to people who use wheelchairs. It's normal." Dr. Thompson, who was present during this conversation, intervened. "Ms. Hayes, bed sores are not normal when there is adequate care. They happen due to neglect in repositioning and hygiene." Valerie stared at him coldly. "Doctor, you don't know what it's like to care for a special child 24 hours a day. It's easy to judge when you don't live that reality." "But I do live that reality," Roderick retorted. "Gabriel is my son too, and I would never leave him in that situation." "You? You who spend half the year traveling? Who comes home tired and barely talks to his own son?" Valerie's voice rose. "It's very easy to show up now, playing the dedicated father." Gabriel, who had been quiet throughout the discussion, began to cry. Softly, Roderick immediately went to him. "Gabriel, it's okay. Daddy's here." "I don't want arguments," the boy whispered. I just want to go home. Valerie approached the bed, but Gabriel recoiled, clinging more to his father. His son's reaction was like a slap in the face for Roderick. Gabriel was afraid of his own mother. I think you'd better leave, Valerie, Roderick said in a controlled voice. I'm his mother too, Roderick. I have a right to be here, and I have the right to protect my son. Please leave. After Valerie left, Gabriel remained clinging to Roderick for a long time. Daddy, I won't have to go back home with Mommy, will I? The question broke Roderick's heart. No, my love. You'll stay with me. Always. While Gabriel slept that night, Roderick received a call from Charles Miller. Mr. Alistair, we got the court order to inspect the house. Tomorrow morning, when Gabriel is discharged, we'll go there. But I have some news you need to know first. What is it? I spoke with Dr. Helen, the physical therapist. She told me she tried to visit Gabriel at home 2 weeks ago, worried about the cancellation of the sessions. Your wife didn't allow her to see the boy, said he was sleeping and didn't want to be bothered. Roderick closed his eyes. Each new piece of information was like a stab. The woman with whom he had built a life, his son's mother, had become a stranger capable of acts he had never imagined possible. Charles, I need to know the whole truth. No matter how painful it is. You will know. Mr. Alistair, I promise. Gabriel's medical discharge happened on a sunny Tuesday morning. Dr. Thompson handed Roderick a detailed medical report and a list of recommendations for the coming months. Gabriel has recovered well from dehydration and malnutrition, but he will need rigorous nutritional monitoring and an immediate return to physical therapy, the doctor explained. I also recommend psychological counseling. Situations like this can leave emotional trauma. Roderick thanked him and helped Gabriel get dressed. The boy was visibly more cheerful, but still showed anxiety whenever someone mentioned going home. Daddy, are we going to our house? Gabriel asked as Roderick packed his things. Yes, my son. But first we'll stop by just to pick up some of your things. Some people will be there with us, okay? Outside the hospital, Charles Miller waited in a dark car along with 2 court officers. Felicity arrived a few minutes later, carrying a folder with documents. The search and seizure warrant is here, she said, showing the papers to Roderick. We can enter the house and examine Gabriel's room, as well as look for the tablet he mentioned. During the drive to the mansion in Greenwich, Gabriel remained quiet, looking out the window. When they arrived at the entrance, Wilson, the driver, was washing one of the cars in the garage. Mr. Alistair, it's good to see Gabriel better, Wilson said, approaching. May I speak with you for a moment? Charles stepped forward. Wilson, I'm a private investigator. We are investigating some facts about Gabriel's care. Have you worked here for a long time? 5 years, sir, and I need to say something. Wilson looked nervously at the house. In recent weeks, I've noticed some strange things. What kind of things? Felicity asked, pulling out a notepad. Ms. Hayes changed a lot after Mr. Alistair travelled. She dismissed Caroline, the nurse who came 3 times a week to care for Gabriel. She said she didn't need her anymore. Roderick was surprised. Caroline was dismissed? Valerie never told me that. And there's more, sir. Several times I heard screams coming from Gabriel's room. When I asked if everything was all right, Ms. Hayes said he was throwing a tantrum and that I shouldn't interfere. Gabriel clung tighter to his father's hand. Caroline was nice, Daddy. She always brought me sweets and helped me do my exercises. Charles noted Caroline's name. Wilson, do you have her contact information? Yes, sir. She was very sad when she was dismissed. She said she was worried about Gabriel. At the mansion's entrance, Valerie awaited them with a poorly disguised expression of irritation. She was impeccably dressed, as always, wearing a beige business suit and high heels. Beside her stood a man in a dark suit who introduced himself as Mr. Marcus Fisher, her lawyer. Roderick, this is absurd, Valerie said before even greetings. Bringing strangers into our home, traumatizing Gabriel with this whole situation. Ms. Hayes, Felicity stepped forward, this is a court order. We have authorization to examine the residence. Mr. Fisher examined the documents. Everything is legally in order, but I want to register my protest against this invasion of privacy. Gabriel hid behind Roderick when Valerie tried to approach. Hi, my love. Mommy missed you. I want to stay with Daddy, Gabriel mumbled without looking at her. Gabriel. Don't be rude to Mommy, Valerie said with a tone that tried to sound affectionate but felt forced. Leave him alone, Valerie, Roderick intervened. He's scared. While the court officers documented the state of Gabriel's room, Charles and Felicity asked specific questions. The wheelchair was still disassembled in the corner, exactly as Roderick had found it 3 days earlier. "Why was the chair disassembled?" Felicity asked. Valerie hesitated before answering. The new physical therapist suggested exercises without the chair, to strengthen his muscles. "What physical therapist? What's his name?" Charles asked, pen in hand. Dr. Silva. He works at a private clinic. Clinic address? I don't remember right now. It's in my contacts." Charles and Felicity exchanged glances. It was obvious Valerie was making it up. "Ms. Hayes," Felicity said, "Gabriel mentioned a tablet that was in your room. We need to examine that device." "What tablet?" "Gabriel doesn't have a tablet." "Daddy gave me an old tablet," Gabriel said shyly. "I'd like to draw on it." Valerie shot a cold glance at her son. "Gabriel, you're confusing things." "No, I'm not, Mommy. It was blue and it was in your closet drawer." With the court order in hand, the officers opened the closet in Valerie's room. In the locked drawer, they found the tablet, some of Gabriel's medical documents, and several unopened letters from Dr. Helen's clinic. Charles turned on the tablet while everyone watched. "There are several recordings here, videos and audios. This is an invasion of privacy," Mr. Fisher protested. "It's evidence in a child neglect case," Felicity countered. The first video showed Gabriel in his room, clearly recorded by himself. The date indicated 2 weeks ago. "Today, Mommy took my chair away again." Gabriel's childish voice echoed through the room. "She said I have to learn not to be lazy. I'm very thirsty, but she said I can only drink water at lunchtime." Roderick felt tears burn his eyes. Gabriel had documented his own neglect, like a cry for help that no one heard. The second video was even more disturbing. Gabriel appeared trying to reach his water bottle, which was purposely placed far from him. "Please." "Mommy!" His voice was heard in the background. "I'm thirsty." Valerie's voice responded, cold and irritated. "Gabriel, stop being dramatic. You drink water when I decide it's time." "But Mommy, Gabriel, you're a burden to this family. You can't even move on your own and you're still making demands." The silence in the room was deafening. Valerie had paled and Mr. Fisher looked at her with astonishment. This was taken out of context," Valerie stammered. "Gabriel was being difficult that day." "Difficult?" Roderick exploded. "He was asking for water." "Water, Valerie." Gabriel began to cry softly. "I didn't want to be a burden, Daddy. I tried not to bother." Roderick knelt and hugged his son. "You were never a burden, my love, never." Charles continued examining the tablet. "There are more videos here. Dozens of them." "We don't need to see all of them now," Felicity said, observing Gabriel's emotional state. "We'll take the device for full technical analysis." But Charles had found something else. "Mr. Allister, there's a folder here called Emergency. It seems Gabriel recorded this to try and ask for help." It was an audio recorded 3 days before Roderick returned from his trip. Gabriel's voice sounded weak and scared. "Daddy, if you find this, I need to tell you something important. Mommy said you're not coming back, that you're tired of me. She took my phone and won't let me call anyone. My back hurts a lot, but she said I'm lying. Daddy, I tried to be strong like you always said, but I'm scared. Mommy changed a lot. She sometimes leaves me alone all day without food. I love you, Daddy. Please come back soon." The audio ended with Gabriel sobbing softly. Valerie tried to speak, but no words came out. Mr. Fisher whispered something in her ear, probably advising her to remain silent. "Valerie," Roderick said with a voice trembling with contained emotion, "how could you do this to our son?" "You don't understand, Roderick," she finally spoke, and her voice had completely changed. The mask of the perfect wife had fallen. "You don't know what it's like to be stuck at home with a child who can't do anything by himself. You have your company, your travels, your life. I only have this. This? Gabriel is our son. Gabriel is a constant reminder that my life is over." Valerie screamed, completely losing control. "I had dreams, Roderick. I was beautiful, intelligent, I had a brilliant future. And now I'm just the mother of the special child. People look at me with pity." Gabriel was crying louder now, clinging to his father. "I didn't want to ruin Mommy's life." "Quiet, Gabriel," Valerie yelled, but Roderick stepped between her and his son. "Don't you dare yell at him." Mr. Fisher held Valerie by the arm. "Valerie, you need to stop talking now." Charles had discreetly called a social worker from Child Protective Services during the discussion. "They're on their way," he whispered to Felicity. "Roderick," Felicity said, "I think we should take Gabriel out of here now. He doesn't need to witness any more of this." As they left the mansion, Gabriel looked back one last time. "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy love me?" The question echoed in the New York afternoon air like a cry of pain. Roderick had no answer. How to explain to a 9-year-old child that his own mother saw his existence as a burden? Outside, Charles received a call. "Mr. Alistair, it was Caroline, the nurse. She really wants to talk to us. She said she has important information about what was happening in the house. Let's talk to her. And there's one more thing. A journalist called my office. Andrew Scott from the New York Times. It seems someone leaked information about the case. He wants to do a story." Felicity frowned. "This could be good or bad for us. It depends on how he approaches the story." "Caroline lives in Queens," Charles said. "If we go now, we can talk to her before nightfall." Gabriel had fallen asleep in the back seat of the car during the journey. The nurse, Caroline Oliver, received them in a simple but very well-kept apartment. She was a woman in her 50s, with grey hair and kind eyes that filled with tears when she saw Gabriel. "My goodness, Gabriel. How are you, my angel?" Gabriel woke up and smiled for the first time in days. "Caroline, you're here." "Of course I am, dear. Aunt Caroline was very worried about you." Roderick introduced himself and explained the situation. Caroline invited them in and offered coffee. "Mr. Alistair, I worked taking care of Gabriel for 2 years, since he was 6 years old. Never have I seen a mother treat a child like that." "What do you mean, Caroline?" "Ms. Hayes was always cold with Gabriel, but in the last few weeks before she dismissed me, things got much worse. She started saying that Gabriel was getting whiny, so that he needed to learn to be independent. Gabriel was playing with some toys Caroline had kept for him, but Roderick noticed the boy was listening to the conversation." "What else did you observe?" "She cancelled his physical therapy, switched his health plan to a cheaper one without consulting anyone, and she started leaving Gabriel alone for hours. I always insisted it was dangerous, but she said I was being exaggerated. Caroline stood up and brought a box of papers. I kept some things. Notes about Gabriel's condition, photos of the exercises we did. I thought I might need them someday." The photos showed Gabriel smiling, doing physical therapy with Caroline. The difference between that happy boy and the frightened child Roderick had found on the floor was shocking. "Caroline," Felicity asked, "would you be willing to give an official statement about all this?" "Of course. Gabriel is like a grandson to me. I would do anything to protect him." When they left Caroline's house, it was already night. Gabriel had fallen asleep again, emotionally exhausted. "Where are we sleeping tonight, Daddy?" he asked sleepily. Roderick had reserved a suite in a hotel on the Upper West Side. He couldn't imagine spending the night in the mansion after everything he had discovered. "In a very nice hotel, with a pool. Tomorrow we'll look for a new house for just us two." "Just us two?" "Just us two, my son." At the hotel, while Gabriel was showering, Roderick received a call from Andrew Scott, the journalist. "Mr. Alistair, I'd like to talk to you about your son's case. I have information that there are suspicions of severe neglect." "How did you hear about the case?" "Sources at the hospital and Child Protective Services." "Mr. Alistair, cases like this are important to raise awareness about the care of special needs children. I'd like to tell the story in a respectful and educational way." Roderick looked at Gabriel, who came out of the bathroom in his pajamas, finally looking like a normal child again. "I'll think about your request, Andrew, but anything that gets published needs to protect my son's privacy." "Of course, sir. Can I call tomorrow?" After hanging up, Roderick helped Gabriel get into the large hotel bed. The boy snuggled up next to his father. "Daddy, now that you know everything, do you still love me?" The question broke Roderick's heart. "Gabriel, I love you more than anything in this world. Nothing will change that, never. And you won't travel anymore?" "I'll only travel when necessary, and I'll always take you with me when possible. I'll never leave you alone again." Gabriel smiled for the first time since Roderick had returned from his trip. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, my son, forever." Thursday morning brought an unexpected surprise. Roderick was having breakfast with Gabriel in the hotel restaurant when his phone began to ring insistently. It was Felicity. "Roderick, did you see the news today?" "No, why?" "Andrew Scott published a story in the New York Times, and it wasn't small, it's on the front page." Roderick asked the waiter to bring the newspaper. The headline made him choke on his coffee. "Businessman alleges severe neglect of disabled son in luxury Greenwich mansion." The article was extensive and detailed but respectful. Andrew had obtained information through hospital sources and had interviewed Dr. Thompson and Caroline. The text told the story without sensationalism, focusing on the importance of adequate care for children with disabilities. "The case gained national repercussions," Felicity continued. "I've already received calls from 3 television programs wanting interviews." Gabriel, who was coloring a drawing, looked up. "Daddy, why does everyone want to talk about me?" "Because your story can help other children, my son. It can help people understand how important it is to take good care of all children." During the morning, Roderick and Gabriel visited a specialized inclusive education school in Brooklyn Heights. The principal, Marcia Ford, welcomed them with special affection. "Gabriel, what a pleasure to meet you. We have many children here who would love to be your friends." Gabriel was shy at first, but soon became enchanted with the adapted art room and the hydrotherapy pool. "Daddy, can I study here?" he asked, watching other children playing in the yard. "Of course, my love. If you want, you can start next week." While Gabriel played with some students, Principal Ford spoke privately with Roderick. "Mr. Allister, I read the article in the newspaper today. Gabriel will need psychological support to overcome this trauma. We have an excellent psychologist here at the school, Dr. Sylvia Morris, who specializes in children who have gone through difficult situations. He has shown some fears, especially of being abandoned again. It's natural, but Gabriel seems like a resilient child to me. With love and proper care, he will recover completely." In the afternoon at Felicity's office, they received an unexpected call. It was Mr. Marcus Fisher, Valerie's lawyer. "Ms. Stone, my client would like to propose an amicable agreement. She is willing to give up custody of Gabriel in exchange for certain conditions." "What conditions?" Felicity asked, activating the speakerphone so Roderick could hear. "First, that there be no criminal prosecution against her. Second, that she has the right to supervised visits. And third, that the matter be resolved without further media exposure." Roderick rose from his chair, indignant. "Agreement? After everything she did to Gabriel?" "Mr. Allister," Felicity said calmly, "let's hear them out first. Mr. Fisher, the proposal is interesting, but my client wants guarantees that Gabriel will be completely protected. My client acknowledges that she made mistakes but claims she was going through a period of undiagnosed late postpartum depression." "Postpartum depression?" Roderick exploded. "Gabriel is 9 years old, and she called my son a dead weight." "Roderick," Felicity motioned for him to calm down, "let's analyze this proposal carefully. Mr. Fisher, send me everything in writing. We will evaluate it." After they hung up, Felicity explained the strategy. "Roderick, even if we don't accept the agreement, it's important to know what they're planning. And frankly, if we can get full custody without a long and traumatic trial for Gabriel, it might be better. But she needs to pay for what she did. Justice isn't just punishment, Roderick. It's protection. Gabriel needs stability, not years in court." That night at the hotel, Gabriel was visibly more cheerful after his day at the new school. He had made 2 friends, John, who also used a wheelchair, and Marina, a girl with Down syndrome who had taught him to play checkers. "Daddy, John told me his mom is also annoying sometimes, but she never did the things Mommy did to me." Roderick sat on the bed next to his son. "Gabriel, do you want to talk about it? I keep thinking if I did something wrong for Mommy not to like me." "Gabriel, listen carefully to what Daddy is going to tell you. You never did anything wrong, nothing. The problem was with Mommy, not with you." "But why did she treat me badly?" It was an impossible question to answer for a child. How to explain that some people cannot cope with responsibilities they consider beyond their capabilities? Sometimes adult people get confused and do wrong things. That's not your fault. Gabriel snuggled into his father's chest. "Daddy, do you think one day I'll be able to walk?" "I don't know, my son, but even if you never walk, you are perfect just the way you are. You are smart, affectionate, funny. You are everything I ever wanted in a son." On Friday, Charles Miller called with important news. "Mr. Allister, I need to tell you something." I've been investigating Ms. Hayes's activities in recent weeks. She hired a crisis management firm. Crisis management firm? Exactly. They are spreading a different version of the story online and in some smaller media outlets. They say you are a negligent father who travels too much and left all responsibility to your wife. Roderick felt his blood boil. What else? They managed to get some websites to publish articles suggesting that Gabriel is a difficult and manipulative child and that you are using him to get rid of Valerie. That's absurd. I know, sir, but it works. A lot of people believe these versions. Crisis management specializes in reversing image crises. Felicity, who was present on the call, intervened. Charles, can you identify who is funding this campaign? I'm still investigating, but I suspect it's Ms. Hayes's family. Her father is an industrialist. He has many media contacts. Roderick remembered his father-in-law, Arthur Fox, owner of an auto parts factory and a man accustomed to solving problems with money and influence. Felicity, can this harm our case? It can create confusion in public opinion, but in court only evidence matters, and our evidence is solid. That same day, Andrew Scott called Roderick. Mr. Alistair, I'm being pressured to publish a story with Ms. Hayes's version. My editor received calls from important advertisers asking to give her the right of reply. And you're going to do that? I'm going to do what every serious journalist does. I'm going to investigate. Can I speak with you and Gabriel this afternoon? I want to hear the full version before making any decision. The meeting took place at the hotel. Andrew proved to be an experienced and sensitive journalist, asking careful questions not to traumatize Gabriel. Gabriel, can you tell me what a normal day was like at your house? Gabriel, who was already more comfortable talking about the subject after conversations with the school psychologist, recounted his routine in detail. Andrew recorded everything with Roderick's authorization. And do you miss your mommy? Gabriel thought for a moment. I miss the mommy from before. When I was younger, she was nicer to me, but lately she's been very angry. When did you notice she changed? When people started saying I was special. Mommy always got very nervous when someone asked about me. After the interview, Andrew showed Roderick some of the articles that were being published against them. Look at this. Absent father uses disabled son for emotional blackmail. And this one. Businessman lies about wife to gain advantage in divorce. How can they publish lies like that? They're not technically lies. They're distorted half-truths. You really do travel a lot for work, so they use that to build a narrative of paternal neglect. But that's manipulation. Exactly. But it's legal manipulation. That's why it's important that I publish the complete story, with all the details and evidence. Andrew showed the tablet with Gabriel's recordings. These recordings are irrefutable. They show a child in despair asking for basic care. No disinformation campaign can erase that. On Sunday, Andrew's main story was published. It occupied 4 pages of the newspaper and included interviews with Dr. Thompson, Caroline Principleford, and even Wilson, the driver. The headline was impactful. The recordings that reveal Gabriel's silent drama. Child documents own neglect on tablet. The article included transcriptions of some audio from the tablet, obviously edited to protect the child's privacy, but clear enough to show the seriousness of the situation. The impact was immediate. Roderick's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Journalists, people offering help, other families with special needs, children wanting to share their stories. Daddy, Gabriel said, seeing all the commotion, is our story helping other people? Yes, my son. Many people are realizing how important it is to take good care of special children. On Monday, Felicity called urgently. Roderick, Valerie's defense is desperate. They've scheduled a press conference for this afternoon. She's going to give her version of events. And what can we do? Nothing? Let her talk. Sometimes it's best to let people condemn themselves with their own words. Valerie's press conference was broadcast live on television. She appeared impeccably dressed, made up and coiffed, alongside Mr. Fisher and a communications specialist. I'm a victim of a defamatory campaign orchestrated by my husband, she said, reading a prepared text. Roderick wants to get rid of me to keep all the family assets. He is using our son as a weapon. Gabriel watched television next to Roderick, confused. Daddy, why is Mommy saying these things? Because she's trying to defend herself, my son. But we know the truth. Valerie continued. Gabriel is a difficult child with very complex special needs. Any mother can have moments of exhaustion. I dedicated my life to taking care of him, while my husband traveled the world building his career. When a journalist asked about the tablet recordings, Valerie replied, "These recordings were edited and taken out of context. Gabriel has a vivid imagination and sometimes exaggerates situations." Mr. Fisher added, "My client is being subjected to a media lynching based on questionable evidence and the testimony of a traumatized child." Roderick turned off the television. He couldn't listen to those lies anymore. "Gabriel, you don't need to see this. Daddy, I'm not lying about what happened, am I?" "Of course not, my love. You just told the truth." Charles called a few minutes later. "Mr. Alistair, Valerie's press conference backfired. Social media is on fire with comments criticizing her. People didn't believe her version." "What do you mean?" "She appeared very well put together, very cold. She showed no emotion when talking about her son. People noticed that. And when she said Gabriel exaggerates, many parents of special needs children were outraged." Felicity called soon after with news that would change everything. "Roderick, I just received a call from the district attorney's office. They are opening a civil investigation into the case, and Child Protective Services is requesting urgency in the custody process." "What does that mean?" "It means that in 1 week, we will have the decisive hearing. The judge will decide on Gabriel's permanent custody." Roderick looked at his son, who had returned to drawing peacefully. In a week, everything would be decided. Gabriel would finally have the legal protection he deserved, or he would be forced to live with a mother who saw his existence as a burden. "Felicity, are we prepared?" "We are. We have all the evidence, all the witnesses. The truth is on our side." But Roderick couldn't help but feel uneasy. Valerie and her family had a lot of money and influence. In his experience as a businessman, he knew that powerful people didn't always lose easily. The week leading up to the final hearing passed in a whirlwind. Roderick and Gabriel moved into a rented house in the West Village, a cozy townhouse with a ramp and a small garden where Gabriel could play outdoors. "Daddy, I like this house better than the other one," Gabriel said on the first morning, having breakfast at the kitchen table that overlooked the backyard. "Why, my son?" "Because here we're together. In the other house, you were always in the office and I was upstairs." Roderick realized that, in his eagerness to provide luxury for his family, he had created a physical distance that perhaps contributed to Gabriel's isolation. The new house was smaller, but it allowed them to always be close. Gabriel had started at the new school and adapted quickly. John and Marina became his best friends, and he was taking adapted painting classes, discovering a natural talent for the arts. "Look, Daddy." Gabriel showed him a watercolor he had painted at school. It was a drawing of 2 figures holding hands in a colorful garden. "It's me and you." "It's beautiful, Gabriel. We'll frame it and hang it in the living room." On Thursday before the hearing, Felicity organized a final meeting in her office to review the entire strategy. Charles brought a voluminous folder with all the gathered evidence. "Here we have Dr. Thompson's complete medical report, the tablet recordings technically analyzed, the testimonies of Caroline Wilson and Dr. Helen, in addition to the photos documenting Gabriel's state when he was found." Felicity added, "The district attorney's office will be present, represented by prosecutor Patricia Nolan, who specializes in children's rights. She will support our request for sole custody." "And on their side?" Roderick asked. "Mr. Fisher will try to disqualify the evidence and present Valerie as a dedicated mother who went through a difficult time," Charles replied. "I also heard they have a surprise prepared." "What kind of surprise?" "I don't know yet. But rest assured, Mr. Alistair, our preparation was complete." Gabriel was playing in the corner of the office that Felicity had specially prepared for him, with coloring books and toys. He seemed more mature after everything he had been through, but he was still clearly a child who needed protection. "Gabriel," Felicity addressed him, "tomorrow we're going to court. Remember we talked about it?" "I remember. That's where the judge will decide if I stay with Daddy, right?" "That's right." "You might have to talk to the judge, but only if you want to and feel comfortable. Can I tell him about the recordings I made?" "Yes, my love," Roderick replied, "but only if you want to." Friday arrived with a typical New York blue sky. The Manhattan Civil Court was busy, and Roderick noticed some journalists at the entrance. Andrew Scott was among them. "Mr. Alistair, good luck today. I'll be covering the hearing." "Thank you, Andrew. Your article was fundamental in bringing the truth to light." The courtroom was formal and intimidating. Judge Edward Nelson, a white-haired man with a serious expression, occupied the central bench. On the left were Roderick, Gabriel, Felicity, and a representative from Child Protective Services. On the right, Valerie with Mr. Fisher and two other lawyers Roderick didn't know. Gabriel held his father's hand tightly, but seemed less nervous than Roderick had anticipated. "Good morning, everyone," the judge began. "We are here to determine the custody of the minor Gabriel Alistair. Ms. Stone, you may present your opening argument." Felicity stood up and, for 20 minutes, meticulously presented all the evidence. She showed photos of Gabriel in the hospital, played excerpts from the tablet recordings, and called Dr. Thompson as the first witness. "Doctor, what was Gabriel's condition when he arrived at the hospital?" "Moderate malnutrition, severe dehydration, and multiple bed sores indicative of prolonged neglect. In 15 years of pediatrics, I have rarely seen such a clear case of child abuse by omission." Caroline was the next witness, and her testimony moved everyone in the room. "Gabriel was a happy child when I took care of him. He was making progress in physical therapy, learning to read better, loved to paint. After I was dismissed, when I managed to talk to him on the phone a few times, he seemed like a different child. Sad, scared. When it was Mr. Fisher's turn to present Valerie's defense, he attempted a victimization strategy. Your Honor, my client is a woman who dedicated 9 years of her life to caring for a child with very complex special needs. Emotional exhaustion is understandable and does not constitute intentional neglect. Valerie was called to testify and maintained an arrogant posture throughout. Gabriel was always a very demanding child. I did the best I could with the resources I had. If I made some mistakes, it was out of desperation, not malice. Do you consider leaving your son without water for hours an error?" Prosecutor Patricia Nolan asked. "I never left Gabriel without water. He tends to exaggerate situations." It was then that Mr. Fisher signaled his assistance. "Your Honor, I would like to present new evidence that we only discovered yesterday." The silence in the room became tense. Felicity looked worriedly at Roderick. "What evidence is this?" the judge asked. "A video showing the father, Mr. Alistair, verbally abusing Gabriel. This proves that the child lives in a toxic environment and that the father is not fit to have custody." Roderick's heart raced. "That's a lie. I would never abuse Gabriel." "Calm down, Mr. Alistair," the judge said. "Let's see this evidence." Mr. Fisher connected a tablet to the room's projector. The video showed a scene where, apparently, Roderick was yelling at Gabriel, "You just give me trouble. I'm tired of having to take care of you." Gabriel recoiled in his chair upon seeing the images. "Daddy, did you really say that?" Roderick was shocked. "Gabriel, I never said that. That didn't happen." The video continued to show Gabriel crying, while Roderick's voice said cruel things. The image quality wasn't very good, but the voice seemed to be his. "Mr. Fisher," the judge asked, "how did you obtain this video?" "It was recorded by a witness who witnessed the scene 2 weeks ago." "What witness?" A woman stood up at the back of the room. Roderick recognized her immediately. It was Sonia, a former employee of the mansion who had been dismissed 6 months earlier for theft. "I saw Mr. Alistair yelling at Gabriel several times," Sonia said. "But only now did I have the courage to speak." Felicity quickly stood up. "Your Honor, I request a recess to analyze this evidence. There is something very suspicious about this story." During the 30-minute recess, Charles worked feverishly on his laptop while Felicity made calls. "I got it," Charles shouted in the hallway. "The video was manipulated. The metadata shows it was created using digital editing software. The voice was synthesized from old recordings." Andrew Scott, who was covering the hearing, approached. "I can help. I have contacts at technology companies who can confirm the tampering quickly." In 15 minutes, a digital technology expert arrived at the courthouse and confirmed, "This video is clearly forged. The voice was artificially created, and the images are a montage." When the hearing resumed, Felicity presented the technical analysis. "Your Honor, this evidence is fraudulent, and we have more. Sonia was fired for theft and has personal motives to harm my client. Mr. Fisher tried to contest, but the expert technically explained how the video had been fabricated. It was impossible to deny the fraud. The judge was visibly irritated. Mr. Fisher, presenting falsified evidence is a crime. I will refer this case for investigation. Your Honor, we did not know the evidence was false, Mr. Fisher tried to defend himself. That will be investigated later, the judge cut in. Now I will hear Gabriel. Gabriel went to the chair near the judge, helped by Roderick. Despite the tension, the boy seemed determined. Gabriel, can you tell me what your life has been like recently? Judge, before I lived in great fear. My mom would get angry with me because I can't walk, and she would leave me alone without food and water. But now with Daddy, I feel safe. And about that video we just saw, my daddy never said those ugly things to me. He always treats me with affection. It was my mom who said I was a burden. The judge then asked to play one of the original tablet recordings, the same one where Valerie called Gabriel a dead weight. The silence in the room was absolute. After the playback, the judge addressed Valerie. Ms. Hayes, do you have any explanation for these words? Valerie, for the first time, seemed to lose her composure. I was very stressed that day. You called your son a dead weight. That is not stress. It is cruelty. The judge paused for a long time, analyzing all the documents. Finally, he pronounced, based on all the evidence presented and considering the best interests of the child, I grant sole custody of Gabriel Allister to his father, Roderick Allister. The mother's visits are suspended until she undergoes psychological counseling and proves adequate conditions for coexistence. Gabriel smiled for the first time during the entire hearing. Roderick picked him up emotional. Furthermore, the judge continued, I order an inquiry to investigate the presentation of false evidence at this hearing. Valerie left the room without looking at Gabriel. Mr. Fisher and his assistant seemed embarrassed by the fiasco of the forged evidence. Outside the courthouse, a small crowd was waiting. Many were parents of children with disabilities who had followed the case through the media. Mr. Allister, an elderly lady approached. My son also has a motor disability. Your story gave us strength to report our nanny, who was mistreating him. Andrew Scott approached for a quick interview. How do you feel about the outcome? Roderick looked at Gabriel, who waved to the applauding people. We feel at home. We can finally start our lives for real. 6 months later, the house in the West Village had transformed into a true home. Gabriel was in 4th grade at the inclusive school and had discovered a special talent for painting. His colorful watercolors decorated all the walls of the house. Daddy, come see. Gabriel called from the living room, where he was finishing another work of art. It was a family portrait, him and Roderick smiling, with Caroline, who had returned to work with them, in the background, and in the corner a small figure Roderick didn't recognize. Who is this person here, Gabriel? It's Miss Felicity. She's part of our family now too, Roderick smiled. Felicity had indeed become more than a lawyer. She was a friend who visited regularly and followed Gabriel's development. The case had gained national repercussions and led to important changes. The U.S. Congress approved a stricter law on the care of children with disabilities, informally nicknamed Gabriel's Law. Andrew Scott won an investigative journalism award for his coverage of the case. Valerie had moved upstate where she lived with her parents. According to Charles, who still monitored the situation, she was undergoing psychological therapy, but had never shown interest in re-establishing contact with Gabriel. Daddy, Gabriel said one night, as Roderick helped him get ready for bed, do you think one day I'll forgive Mommy? It was too deep a question for a 10-year-old child. Gabriel, forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or accepting what happened. It means not letting anger hurt you. When you're ready, if you're ready, forgiveness will be yours. I don't think I'm ready yet, and that's okay. You have all the time in the world. Gabriel snuggled into his father's chest. Daddy, thank you for coming back for me. I will always come back for you, my son. Always. As Gabriel fell asleep, Roderick reflected on the entire journey. His company had reorganized to allow him to work more from home. He had discovered that being a present father didn't mean giving up his career, but rather reorganizing priorities. The phone rang softly. It was a message from Andrew Scott with a photo. Gabriel was on the front page of a national magazine about social inclusion, holding one of his paintings and smiling. The headline read, "The Child Who Changed the Nation. Gabriel and His Fight Inspired a Generation." Roderick looked at his son sleeping peacefully and whispered, "You're my hero, Gabriel." The next morning they received a special visit. It was John, Gabriel's school friend, accompanied by his parents. "Gabriel, I brought my new watercolor to show you," John said, excited. The two children began to compare their paintings, talking animatedly about techniques and colors. The parents gathered in the kitchen for coffee. "Roderick," John's father said, "you don't know how much your story inspired us." Gabriel showed John that it's possible to overcome any adversity. "Actually," Roderick replied, watching the boys, "it was Gabriel who taught me that." As the children played in the garden, Roderick thought about how life had completely changed. A year ago, he was a successful but absent executive, married to a woman who hid a dark side, and father to a child who suffered in silence. Today, he was a present father, a man who had learned the true meaning of family, and guardian of a child who had become a symbol of resilience and hope for thousands of people. "Daddy," Gabriel called from the garden, "come paint with us." Roderick joined the boys at the painting table set up under the tree. As he mixed the paints, Gabriel held his hand. "Daddy, I love you very much." "I love you too, my son, forever." And so, painting colorful watercolors in a sunny garden, father and son built not only works of art, but a new life based on love, trust, and the certainty that together they could overcome any challenge. The story of Gabriel and Roderick would continue to inspire families across the country, reminding everyone that true love is unconditional, that the protection of children is the responsibility of all society, and that even in the darkest moments, there is always hope for a new beginning.